Etsy is a fantastic marketplace for creating a shop quickly and making sales. It has a lot of great things going on there, including a marketplace of buyers ready to purchase your products, a lot of trust that they have built with those buyers that then gets transferred onto you. But there are some issues with selling on Etsy. So I'm going to go over some of the reasons why you should not be selling on Etsy, and maybe some of these resonate with you and are going to push you to finally start your own website where you can sell and create the income of your dreams with your own products. The first reason why you might not want to sell on Etsy is because it is very hard to stand out on Etsy. You are competing with millions of other sellers. And if you've ever done an Etsy search, you'll realize that a lot of the listings start to look the same, because once someone realizes there's a bestseller, they basically go and make their listing just like that bestseller. All of the people competing for the same purchases from customers for the same item start to all morph together. And this is unfortunate because it makes it really hard for any one seller to stand out. And whoever basically gets the lucky SEO cream of the crop at the top or pays the ads is going to be the person that gets the sale. And this is really unfortunate for new sellers, especially because it can be very hard to figure out how to stand out among the crowd on Etsy when everything is starting to look the same. And every time someone is searching for your product, your competitors are right next to you in the results. Worse than that is the next reason why you should not sell on Etsy, and that's because even on your own product listing, Etsy's gonna put your competitors' products right there. So this is one of the reasons why I personally don't like Etsy and don't think it's a great place to sell, is because even when you drive traffic there to your product listing inside your shop, there's your competitors on the same page. Etsy has other suggested items on that page from other shops competing with you for the purchase. So you might do all the work of driving your own traffic to your shop on Etsy, and then someone gets to the product listing, but then they scroll down to the add to cart button and they realize, oh, look at that one. It looks cute, it looks better maybe, and it's cheaper. I'm gonna buy that one. So they head over to your competitor's shop in one single click and you've lost that purchase. That's one of the reasons why I personally just don't like Etsy. I don't really focus my energy there because it's so easy to lose the sale on Etsy to someone else that has similar products, because Etsy doesn't consider you individual shops really. They are getting the money either way. They get paid no matter whose shop sells the product. They get that money. So they don't care if you sell the product or your competitor sells the product. As long as someone sells that product, they get their fees. But for you as a seller, you're losing out because of that situation. Another reason why I personally don't like Etsy is because you do get ripped off so often. Etsy is probably one of the more cutthroat audiences for sellers out there. I feel like there is no community aspect there. It is cutthroat competition at all times. If you have a product that sells at all, it will be ripped off, it will be stolen, and someone will be selling it or a slight variation of it very soon and for a cheaper price. They will be stealing your sales, and it is something that you probably maybe could pursue if you do have a copyright or trademark or whatever on your product. If you have something that distinguishes it as your own product and you want to pursue that legally, you probably could, you can. There's ways to work with Etsy on that, and you could always just hire lawyers. However, this happens so often on Etsy that most people have just decided that, it's part of selling on Etsy. You're gonna get ripped off. Don't worry about it. Focus on your own shop. That's the advice that everyone always seems to give in like the groups about Etsy, and to new sellers who are stressed out when this first happens to them. They always get the advice of like, don't worry about it. It happens all the time. And that's because it happens all the time. This is something that's so common on Etsy. Most people are just like, whatever. It's part of doing business on Etsy. So not only will you sometimes get ripped off and then see someone selling your product for a cheaper price, but Etsy in general can be a race to the bottom for prices. This is one of the reasons why I don't like selling on Etsy, and it's because when something gets popular, it is literally very often a race to the bottom on pricing. People will sell for less than the shop that they see, and then that shop will sell for less, and then they will just be moving their prices down, making sales, making things try to stand out until they are the lowest price, so they will get that sale of the person that is cost conscious and trying to find the cheapest price. This has happened in so many categories and on so many products on Etsy. I've seen it happen, and it's just so disheartening because you put a lot of time and work into your products and then you're selling them for barely any profit. And the thing is, there's always someone on Etsy who will take less profit than you. There's always someone in another country on Etsy that will accept pennies on their product. There's always someone that will accept barely any profit, if any. There are people that will sell for no profit just to get those sales, to get their shop going, to get those reviews. They will sell for next to nothing. And often if you're trying to make a living doing this, you cannot compete with that. There's just no way. You can't compete with someone taking no profit. And that is something that happens on Etsy. People will sell for no profit for a variety of reasons. And if you're trying to make a profitable business, you just can't do that. So that's one of the reasons why I personally don't like Etsy. I feel like it is a race to the bottom with pricing on almost every category. Sometimes certain products can escape this, but in general, the race to the bottom has been a common issue on Etsy. Another reason why you might not want to sell on Etsy is because the fees can add up, and ultimately those fees are eating into that profit for you. So Etsy fees, if you are selling a lot and if you are driving most of your traffic from another source like TikTok or YouTube or something like that, you are losing out on a lot of money if you're selling in volume on Etsy. There are a lot of ways to reduce the number of fees you're selling. If you want to move over to like a Shopify store, you pay that monthly fee for $39 or whatever a month, however much it is at the time, and then you just pay the credit card processing fees. Basically, you are saving lots of money if you're selling in volume. So that is something to consider depending on your shop. It doesn't make a difference for everyone, but if you start selling a lot, or if you start building your own audience and driving them to your products, then it definitely makes sense to go somewhere where the fees are less. So that is something to consider. And it's really maybe not an issue for beginners because you're getting so much for what you're paying Etsy. But once you are kind of established, that's why so many people leave Etsy. They realize that the fees they're paying on Etsy don't match up to what they are providing to Etsy with sending their own customers and building their own audience, because they can pay less fees, especially if they're selling a lot per month. The next reason why you should not sell on Etsy is because you are just on rented land. You are not building your own business. You're not building your own audience. You have zero control over who is in your shop when you're selling on Etsy. You do not get to build an email list from your customers on Etsy. People sometimes do it, but you are definitely not following the terms of service and you can get kicked off. You should not be doing that. You're basically not able to take their email address. You're not able to take the customer off Etsy to your own platform. You are not allowed to do that because you are renting from Etsy. If you're an Etsy seller, you're a renter. You're not building your own thing. You're just a renter on Etsy's land, and that gives them the ultimate say in everything that happens. That allows them to control the customer. It's not your customer. It is Etsy's customer. And ultimately that extends to all customer service interactions. So if they report you to Etsy for not giving good customer service or saying that their product got lost, you ultimately don't get to decide. Ultimately, Etsy is going to resolve that dispute, not you. It's not your customer. It is Etsy's customer, and you are the seller, yes, of the product, but Etsy is that between you and that customer. And since it's Etsy's customer, they're going to choose what's right for that customer over you. You don't get the final say in the customer service disputes. You don't get to take the customer with you. There's really a lot of negatives to building on Etsy for that reason, because you don't own that audience. You can't email them every single time you have a new product. You can't reach out to them every time you have a sale. You are at the mercy of whether or not Etsy notifies your past customers. You're at the mercy of whether or not Etsy can even reach those customers. You are renting Etsy's audience for your sales, which can be great because it's a huge amount of people ready to buy. But ultimately, it's not a long-term decision because you don't get to take those people with you. Those are a few of the reasons why I don't think you should be selling on Etsy. Ultimately, it's up to you and what makes sense for your business. When you're first starting out, maybe Etsy is the right choice. And for a lot of beginners, it's a great place to start. But once you're a little more established in your business and you're creating your own sales, you're driving your own traffic, you have repeat customers, Etsy probably isn't the right choice for you. And sometimes you know that early on. I hope this video has given you something to think about if you are selling on Etsy. Maybe you're looking for an alternative. And if so, definitely check out this next video.